It's a small town in the Northwest with a big mystery.
As I pulled the covers back off the bed, I noticed that up around the pillow area at the top of the bed, there was some blood.
Who has kidnapped and murdered 2 women in this picture-perfect community?
We didn't see anything obvious in the way of homicidal violence, but it was very hard to tell.
One thing's for certain. The killer is leaving behind a strange calling card. Microscopic metal shavings sprinkled over the victim's clothing. Can these tiny scraps stop a killer before he strikes again?
We didn't have what we needed yet. That is not a very comfortable feeling. The last thing we want is someone else victimized by this person.
In every detective's career, one case stands out as unforgettable. Crime scenes so bizarre they defy logic, and criminal minds so conniving they defy understanding. To get to the truth, it takes extreme forensics. June 21st, 1997. A dinner train rolls out of Renton, Washington on a scenic tour of the Great Northwest.
People can board this train and eat their dinner while they enjoy a casual ride out into the foothills of the Cascade Mountain Range and enjoy the scenery outside. And I think ultimately it stops at this winery. There was a concert at the winery, and flares had been put out on the road in an effort to control traffic.
The dinner train comes to a jolting stop on the tracks as vehicle traffic passes into the winery.
While it was stopped there, some of the folks on the train noticed something odd in the brushy area along the railroad tracks.
The conductor jumps off the train to take a look. It appears to be clothing until he moves closer.
He got out, looks off to the west, and sees what he believes to be a human body, or at least part of a human body, laying in a wetland that is immediately adjacent to the railroad tracks.
Shaken, the conductor hurries back to the train and calls 911. Moments later, the King County Sheriff's Office responds to the scene. It's now early evening and getting darker by the minute.
We were getting into nightfall. The last thing you want to do is start an outdoor kind of search at night, because you will miss things. You get one shot at doing a scene correctly.
Especially when it's a possible crime scene. A patrol officer stands guard overnight. Sergeant James Grattan is the supervisor of the Major Crimes Unit and a 25-year veteran of the Sheriff's Office. At the scene, Grattan finds the body of a woman discarded along the railroad tracks.
Her body itself was laying face down. There was a good degree of decomposition that had started. We could see that there were things around her like a jacket. We didn't see anything obvious in the way of homicidal violence, but it was very hard to tell.
The victim is wearing a blue fleece jacket and dressed in a pink nightgown. It could mean she had been abducted from her bedroom and murdered. Or had she simply wandered off and been fatally injured? It's still too early to tell. Detectives and forensics experts search the mud and grass along the train tracks, looking for any clues.
Her jacket was found. Her slipper was found. We actually ultimately brought in Marine Unit folks, dive team members, who were able to go into this culvert area and actually found her other slipper.
It still doesn't add up to murder, but a few feet from the body, a possible clue.
There ultimately was found an empty basic cigarette pack.
Was the victim a smoker, or did a killer leave this evidence behind? For now, priority one is learning the identity of the woman. The body is transported to the medical examiner in Seattle for autopsy. The remains are too badly decomposed to determine the cause of death, but the coroner estimates the victim has been dead for several weeks. Grattan immediately begins searching through recent missing persons reports. One file catches his eye. A middle-aged woman reported missing by her son 3 weeks earlier. Arlene Jensen lived less than a mile from the train tracks where the body was found. Dental records confirm it's her. 3 weeks earlier, a King County detective had responded to the missing persons report for Arlene Jensen.
They made arrangements to immediately go out and meet with Arlene's son, David, back out at the apartment so that they could immediately go through and see what he had seen, take a look for evidence, just start the investigative process.
53-year-old Arlene worked as a seamstress at a local clothing manufacturer. In 11 years on the job, she rarely missed a day of work. But her son says that on Tuesday, May 27, 1997, the day after Memorial Day, he received a troubling phone call from his mother's employer. She had not shown up for work.
Arlene was a very steady employee, and the fact that she had not called in absent to work and not reported to work was quite odd.
Worried, Arlene's son immediately drove to his mother's apartment and found her car parked outside.
His mother was reported to us pretty fastidious, kept her house clean, kept it in order. He didn't see any signs of forced entry. There were some packages, some UPS-type delivery packages outside. So he gathered up the packages and he went inside. Once he was inside, he found some odd things. Some ashes that were around, the bed was unmade. All of this was quite different than what he had anticipated finding there.
Detectives immediately suspect foul play.
The Washington State Patrol Crime Laboratory response folks were asked to respond to the scene and meet the detectives.
The team is headed by Terry McAdam, a veteran of more than 300 crime scenes. McAdam has seen it all during his long career, but this case will test his investigative skills like never before.
First thing I noticed when I walked in was the neatness of the place. It was incredibly clean. It was a very well kept apartment, and there were certain things that seemed out of place.
She was a chronic cigarette smoker, habitual cigarette smoker. She was also very tidy. There was an ashtray that had ashes around the table in a way that would suggest that maybe the person wasn't sitting in front of the table smoking, that they were moving around and ashes were on various places on the coffee table.
Arlene was a smoker. It's possible the cigarettes in the apartment are hers. But leaving ashes scattered around is completely out of character. McAdam continues his initial walkthrough. When he enters the bedroom, he finds something else suspicious.
So when looking at the stuff in the bedroom, the thing I noticed was that the bed covers, from my previous experience at crime scenes, if something is pulled up, the natural thing to do is to pull it down to have a look what's underneath. And as soon as I pulled the covers back off the bed, I noticed that up around the pillow area at the top of the bed, there was some blood.
McAdam notices that the blood on the bed is dry and that none has been transferred to the top sheet. It appears as if the sheet had been pulled over the stain to conceal it.